God, it's so bright in here. Hi, this is Trev. Welcome to my blog. Welcome to my 1 year review of Trev's Homebrew Rust Prevention Spray. It's not really 1 year though, is it? It's 1 year and 4 months. No workshop, hence no videos. But I have workshop now, so videos will commence. So this is the 1 year review. I still call it the 1 year review, even though it's hopelessly late. And if you'd like to skip to the end of the video and just see the results, then you can do so by skipping to this number. If you're happy to keep watching, then you can watch the whole test right from the start from 1 year ago. Hope you enjoy the video. Hi, this is Trev and welcome to my blog. Many questions have been asked about these lanolin based anti-corrosion sprays. You know, the ones that come ready for use. You just lie on your back under the vehicle and spray it with this product that staves off the rust. So people ask questions like, do they actually work, and is there any downsides to using these products? Well, they definitely work. That's the feedback I've got anyway, and the only criticism people do give me is that they do seem to be rather expensive for the length of time they actually offer protection to the vehicle. Okay, so let's point out the obvious, because somebody's bound to point it out that there's nothing that you can paint on a car that's going to stop it from rusting indefinitely. Well, no shit. And of course, it's absolutely true. Now, if I restored a car really well, shot blasting, epoxy coating, all the rest of it, I could probably get 20 to 30 years out of a restoration before it started to go rusty, provided I kept it in an airtight workshop, climate controlled, temperature, humidity and everything else. I know this sounds a nonsense to say, but it's absolutely true. As soon as you start driving that car outside, it's going to deteriorate rapidly. We're talking just driving it in the summer, that's going to go from 20 years all the way down to, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before you start seeing corrosion. If you're a mad fool like me and you restore a 60-year-old vehicle and then drive it down salt-laden roads because it's snowing, so I'm driving my vehicle every single week in all weathers, it doesn't matter what it is, tipping down with rain, sleet, snow, hail, rust is going to start creeping back in just a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. You're going to be looking around it, you're going to be seeing little outbreaks, and that's what the thought behind the lanolin coating is all about. It's all about a maintenance. So you go round and every single year or every 2 years you do a quick check round, you top up your lanolin coatings, any outbreaks of rust you can sort out with some rust converter and then just touch it up. The idea is that you're only going to be doing a few little outbreaks and then you're just going to be generally topping up your coating until the next time round. And that way you can have a vehicle that you restored 10 years ago and in 10 years time it's absolutely mint. Whereas if you restored the car 10 years ago and you just left it and didn't do anything to it, in 10 years time it's going to need restoring again. So I was having to think about it, and I went and had a chat to the guys at Rustbuster to see if they did their own ready for use kit, and they said, actually Trev, no we don't, and there's a reason we don't do one, and it's because the amount you actually have to thin lanolin by to keep it fluid at room temperature means that you end up with a product that's typically 10 to 15% lanolin, and all the rest is basically like a solvent or something that the lanolin is soluble in. So I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a way of making your own home brew ready for use kit to spray on. And I had a chat to them and they said that yes, but you would have to implement some kind of heating into your methods, and also you need to find something that was capable of spraying the product out effectively, because normally you would use wax application kit and a big compressor and all the rest of it. And the whole reason people are attracted to these things is because it is a ready for use kit. You haven't got to have specialist equipment, it's all there ready to go. So I had a hunt round my workshop to see if I could find something to use, and immediately two things sprung to mind. One is an old fence sprayer that I've got, and also a brakes cleaning applicator. I actually use it for solvent wipe for when I'm painting. So with a couple of application methods in mind, I set about making up my very own Trev's Homebrew anti-corrosion product, and I used the products that Rustbuster sent me. So they sent me the highest concentration of lanolin in a product. It's around 70%. It's called Lanolin Pure. They also sent me some Lanolin Turbo, which is a dilutant or a thinner for the product, and I set about experimenting with different ratios, and the best ratio that I came up with anyway was basically 1:1, so 50-50. Really easy. So I'll talk you through a real quick and dead easy process to mix this product up. Now let's talk safety here, guys. We are talking about heat, so whatever you do, do not run off and get your wife's favourite saucepan, because if you do, your ass will be fried chicken.
He ain't lying.
So let's have a quick look at the product before we get started. With the cap off, you can see that it's really quite a firm, waxy product, and this is at room temperature, and this is why we need to apply some heat. So this is real quick and easy. Just get your container on a stable surface, put the Lanolin inside, make sure the cap is slightly loose just to allow any gases to escape, then boil the kettle and simply keep filling it up with water. I put 3 kettle loads of water in this, left it 10 to 15 minutes, tightened the cap, took it out, inverted the can a few times to try and get it to sort of start amalgamating, left it for about another 15 minutes, took it out, gave it a good shake, and now it is totally liquid and ready to use. Meanwhile, I had the turbo also warming up. So after some experimentation, I found that the best ratio, for me anyway, was 1:1. Now that you have your product liquid, just simply mix a 1:1 ratio, give it a quick stir, put it into your bottle, pump it up, and you're ready to rock and roll. So I worked out the surface area of this piece of board, and it's just a shade over 1 metre square. I sprayed it all over with the Lanolin to work out its coverage, and I was amazed to see that I only used 200 mils of Lanolin to coat a board that was 1 metre square, which means that if you purchased 5 litres of Lanolin and 5 litres of turbo, mix those two together, potentially you're looking at 50 square metres. So enough to do your car, your missus' car, your mate's car, and your mate's missus' car as well, or just store it and you've got probably enough for the lifetime of the vehicle. In summing up, the purpose of this video was to produce a high lanolin content anti-corrosion spray, utilising hand-pumped applicators. This is particularly useful for people that don't own expensive compressors or wax injection equipment. The other advantage of using hand-pumped applicators is that there is no product-to-air mist contamination due to the fact that you are not using compressed air. And what that really means is that you can easily coat the components that you want to protect with a thinned Lanolin without the overspray going into the air and coating everything in your surrounding environment. I've been thinking about doing this video for a long time, and I had thought that I need some steel samples that are already rusty to use as part of the demonstration in this video. Now this piece of steel here, this was already rusty when I put it outside about a month ago, and this was a piece of metal that I shaped for a previous video. This went outside at the same time. This had no rust on it at all, and because it rains so much here in the UK, this has obviously gone quite rusty quite quickly. 1 month outside. Interestingly, I put this on top of a bucket which was filled with water. I put a piece of metal inside the bucket, and here it is. Now I don't think you could say that that has rust on it. It's certainly tarnished on this side. On the other side it looks as clean as a whistle. Apart from where it's ground slightly, it's also gone slightly tarnished. So that's interesting. in of its own, because of course you need oxygen and water for rust to actually happen on steel. This is probably why these cars that are pulled out of lakes are so well preserved, considering that they've been in water for all those years. I did want some rustier metal than this, and as luck would have it, I found some that's been outside for about, I reckon, 8 or 9 years. So this has just been outside in all weathers for 9 years, so you're not going to get any rustier than this. So this is what I'm going to use as part of the demonstrations. I've got 6 steel samples, so I've narrowed this test down to 6 different tests. Could have got really carried away, couldn't I? I could have done like 20 or 30 and pitted it against lots of different products, but I thought, well, really I've got everything here I need, and I haven't really got the space either to store all this stuff. So I'm going to now prepare all of these samples with a strip and clean wheel, just to make sure that I get any kind of protective mill scale coating off the mild steel. And there are little specks of rust forming in some of it as well, so be a good opportunity to get rid of all that, so that all the clean samples are all exactly the same. Same I'm going to do as well with the rusted one. I'm just going to use a strip and clean wheel just to clean off all the loose rust. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spray Trev's homebrewed Lanolin rust prevention spray on the rusted steel. On the other one I'm going to use the FE123 Rust Buster Rust Converter before I put the Lanolin on the top, just to see what the comparison is going to be between the two. Will the Lanolin on its own stop the previously rusted metal from rusting any further? The sample labelled as mystery was in fact cooking oil spray, just to clear up any confusion. I did run a competition to win one of my famous Trev's Blogs panel hammer the first time round. Obviously this hammer has now been won, and so the mystery was in fact cooking oil spray. Just engine oil. A lot of people use engine oil, don't they, to stop things from going rusty. So that's going to be just engine oil. That's going to be just the Trev's homebrew Lanolin, and this is going to be just bare steel, so that we can see if the actual test rig is working, because this is of course going to go rusty quite quickly. I'm going to take a less aggressive approach with the one that I'm going to use a rust converter on, because you shouldn't really over polish steel or rusty steel that you're going to use a converter on. So I'm just going to scrape the very loose off and just wire brush it. Our 6 samples all prepped and ready for the next stage. Obviously these are our 4 clean samples, and these 2 are the heavily rusted ones. I estimate these 2 have been outside for around about 8 years, and it doesn't get any worse than this. These pits are certainly close to perforation, and this sample is going to be the one I'm just going to put the Lanolin on. And this sample I'm going to treat it with the rust converter next, so give it a quick degrease and then on with the rust converter. This is the rust converter I'm going to use. First thing to do, give it a really good shake. The next thing you're going to need is a separate container to put the converter in and a small brush. The reason you need a separate container is you don't want to be putting partially activated product back into the bottle, so you don't want to contaminate the bottle. So I've given the bottle a really good shake, and I'm just going to put a tiny little spot of the converter in this container, and you really don't need much. This is the great thing about this stuff. It doesn't have to go a long way. So I'm just going to put a tiny spot in the bottom, and that'll probably be too much. I've applied just a very small amount of converter to the surface of the steel. You really don't want to apply too much, because believe it or not, the results won't be as good. You just need enough on there to wet the surface of the steel. I've worked it well in, changing direction with the brush several times, just to make sure I've ironed out any little craters that may have appeared. I've got all my edges in really nicely. It's about 15 minutes since I started to apply it. You can see that it's starting to turn a black purpley colour. This is it now. I'm not doing any more Definitely no second coats needed. You don't need to do anything like that. You just put the one coat on. If it hasn't converted, then you've got another problem. Maybe it's too cold. You mustn't use this stuff when it's really, really cold because it just won't activate properly. I've used miles too much, as you can see. Looks like I've actually got more in the tub than what I had when I put it in there to start with. So, like I say, I put far too much in that. Only needed a tiny little dab for this job. And here we go, 8 hours later. I'm surprised at the results. I'm not talking about its performance, I'm really talking about its appearance more than anything else. I mean, it does look just like it's been painted with some matte black paint. My previous experiences with Rust Converter is that it looks quite patchy afterwards, although I did go to a lot of trouble this time to leave plenty of rust on the surface. This is the test rig finished. All the samples are all screwed on there. I know it's not that elaborate, but do you know what? I haven't got weeks to spend on this. I put some stainless steel screws through there. I realised the weak point is going to be that there's going to be water ingress around the corners, but we actually want the samples to fail and then witness how they fail and what happens. So I haven't been too fussy with it all. So written on the sides is the test. So we've got Lanolin all the way down this side. So that's the converted, that's the clean steel, that's the rusty steel. And on the other side, bare steel, engine oil, and our mystery product. I'm just going to give this one really, really good coat of Lanolin on the underside and the top side, of course, and then I'll do the other side afterwards. This is the engine oil test sample. I'm not going to spray oil on it because that's going to be a load of work, isn't it? So all I'm going to do is pump some, I've got any in the can, there you go. Pump some engine oil on there and then use this brush. I've put loads on. So there's no way that every surface won't be covered. I think this is 2050 from memory, so it's a very, very thick grade of engine oil. That's a good coating. Just get the edges in. There we go. I did an evaporation test on the turbo thinners on its own just to see if it completely evaporated and how it actually performed really on its own, because it looks like a kind of oily substance, a little bit like automatic transmission fluid. That's probably because it's that reddish colour. What I'll do is I'll just spot some on this rusted steel and I'll show you how it behaves. So I'm only going to put a little dot on there. That's one spot. We'll see what happens. Leave it a little while. So this is a couple of hours later. You can see the spread on it. It's absolutely amazing considering it was just that small dot to start with. So it kind of creeps and leaches along really, really well. And it acts as a kind of carrier for the Lanolin. So imagine you sprayed that along a seam. That would be carrying that Lanolin into the seam. Even more amazing, when I come back tomorrow, I'll show you what it does the next day. And there we go. 12 hours later, it's completely evaporated. When I first formulated the 50-50 mix, so 50% thinners, 50% Lanolin, mixed it up, I was happy with the mix, it sprayed out lovely. So what I thought I'd do is just take a tiny little sample of the mixed Lanolin and put a tiny dab on this piece of steel. Now the dab has spread slightly and it's gone flatter. But what I find really interesting is this shadow that's appeared around the dab. Now this is well over a week later, and I would assume that if this was just the thinners evaporating out, I don't know, it may well be, but I would have thought by now that this would have been well and truly dry, and it's not, and this is well over a week later. If you didn't already know, lanolin is a byproduct of the wool industry, and if you didn't already know, I kind of work on a farm now, or very close to a farm, and occasionally I have to nip into a field and get a ewe back on its feet in the lambing season. Or sheep worrying jokes aside. Now sheep at a distance look like they're fluffy, but believe me, when you actually hold on to their fleece, it is extremely rigid, and this is because of the lanolin in it, making it feel incredibly wiry. Along with the Corallan, Rustbuster also gave me a sample of their FE123 rust converter so that I could give you a bit of a demo on how I would treat the underside of a car. So what I would do is jack the car up as high as I could get it, or put it on wheel ramps, even better, and very safe, and it gives you good access to get underneath. Then I go around with some soapy water and a brush, give it all a good scrub down and a hose down. Really want to be performing the cleaning operation the day before you intend to use the product, so that you give it a good time to dry out. You really want it as bone dry as possible. You don't want to be applying it over anything that's damp. So the next day you can go around and attend to any little rust spots that may be under there. Now really effective tools for this would be a wood chisel or a wire brush that goes on a drill. Some people use these wire brushes that go on an angle grinder. Now please, if you are going to use one of these, please be really careful, because you can blind yourself with one of these in a split second, and if you're led under a vehicle and that thing snags and jumps out of your hand and you're led on the floor, it's soon going to eat your clothes. Doesn't really bear thinking about, and I really don't think they're worth using in this kind of situation. You can go around with the wood chisel, scrape off any flaking paint, and then just clean off the loose rust with the wire brush, and you're ready to go. You don't need to take off all of the rust, you just need to take off the surface, and then you use the rust converter, just brush it on, brush it in well, and leave it to activate. Something else worth mentioning about this rust converter is Practical Classics did their own independent research and review on it, and it came out top of the class. Reheat activate your Corallan if you've already mixed it up the day before. If it's already thinned, then it will go solid in the bottle like I said earlier, but heat activation is so quick now because it's already diluted. Pump the bottle up, get under the car, and just make sure you give everything a really good coat. One big precaution with this product is it will affect rubber, so make sure that you wipe it off your flexible brake hoses. Don't leave it just sat on there affecting that rubber. Apart from that, it's pretty good, and I've also found it to be fairly non-aggressive with underbody coatings that you may have applied yourself, and perfectly fine for manufacturers' coatings too. After you've applied the Corallan, I think it would be advisable to not drive it in harsh, wet conditions for a couple of days afterwards, even though it will be effective straight away at shrugging off water. You can see how well this product works by how well it is shrugging off that water, stopping the oxygen and the moisture getting to the steel. Sliding doors. There is a link in the video description directly to Rustbuster where you can purchase any of the products that have appeared in this video. 6 months on from the original application of the Corallan to the steel samples, we've experienced some different weather conditions. We've had extreme heat, well into the 30s. We've also experienced a little bit of rain. Yeah, it does rain a little bit in the UK, and we've also had some freezing cold conditions too. So a lot of varied weather conditions to put these steel samples through. This is what the samples looked like originally, this is what the samples looked like 6 months ago, and this is what the samples look like today. This is the rusty sample with FE123 and then coated in Corallan. It looks pretty much the same as it did before, still dry to the touch now. It's getting cooler again now. If I'd have done this when I should have done it, then this was quite soft. I noticed that these really softened up in the heat. This is the clean sample coated in Lanolin, and we'll do a scrape test on this in a minute. Moving across to the rusty sample coated in Lanolin, this is what it looks like now. And also the one that's got the single pack etch primer and Lanolin on too. It's got picked up a bit of debris. Moving over to the other side, we've got the bare steel sample, the engine oiled sample, and the cooking oiled sample. So these have all failed, and I think the best thing to do is to scrap this side now. There's no further point in testing these any further, and what I could do is utilise the space to put 3 brand new samples along, and we'll put 3 different products and we'll test those to failure as well. Make the test a little bit more interesting. To answer somebody's question, yes, I do read the comments section on these videos, but I leave it to Rustbuster to give people technical replies, because they know vastly more than I do about this kind of thing, and I think I'll leave it to them as it's their gig really. So the question being, is it waxy? Well, yes, it is. It's just like candle wax really. You imagine soft candle wax, when you warm it up, it gets softer and softer. And the consistency, as you can see, it's very pliable. It's just like I say, it's just like candle wax that's set hard. And as it's getting warmer in my fingers, it's getting more and more pliable. Like I said, in the sun, you could actually see it was melting slightly. Of course, under the car, it's not going to be baked as hard because it's not going to be in direct sunlight. Also, the UV rays aren't going to be as strong under the car, and it is the UV, I believe, that actually breaks Lanolin products down. So there you have it. Not particularly scientific, I can appreciate, but I think you get the gist. That's scraped off ever so easily, and it's come away nice and clean. You can see that the steel isn't starting to go rusty or anything like that. So what I'm going to do now is put a little bit of fresh Lanolin over that bit that I've scraped off, just to give it the protection again, and we'll see what it does next time round. I don't know whether it's going to get harder to remove as it gets older. We'll find out, won't we? Taking the comments on board, people said, why didn't you use some WD-40? I wonder how well that would work. So this one's going to have WD-40. EP90 gearbox oil. A lot of people said that the engine oil I used was way too thin. Use some gearbox oil, so that's what's going to go on this one. A lot of people also said wax oil or cavity wax. Well, wax oil is actually a brand name, so I've just got some generic cavity wax, which I picked up when I was working in the trade. The WD-40 is so thin, I've allowed it to dry out a bit and then given it another coat. The EP90, that's as wet as I can get it on there. Same with the cavity wax, allowed it to dry, given it another coat. I leave these now inside for 2 or 3 days just to allow all the solvents to dry out before I put them outside. I intend to film these every single month just to see them being affected over time, and then I'll add that to the next update. Well, this is the end of the video. Thanks very much for watching. So which product do you think is going to fail? What order do you believe that these products are going to fail? Like the WD-40, the gearbox oil, the cavity wax, or the Lanolin? Which one do you think is going to fail comments in the comment section. If you could drop one of those, I'd be really appreciative. I personally believe, I reckon it's going to be the gearbox oil first, then it's going to be the WD-14, and it's a toss-up between the cavity wax or the Lanolin. I really don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. I'm going to come back once it's come around to the 2 year, so it's going to be about another, I can't even work it out, 8 or 9 months it's going to be, and then we'll come back and we'll see. I will do a little video every single month of those brand new steel samples just to see how they fail over time. I think that'd be interesting to watch as well. Just to reiterate, I wouldn't use the Lanolin, I should say, as a total underbody protection coating. I would obviously go through the usual primers, paints and underbody coatings, and then just use the Lanolin at the end as the final thing. But for test purposes, just wanted to keep it just on top of bare steel, and I think it's done exceptionally well, stopping any oxidization of that steel, because if anything was getting through, it would be going pretty rusty by now. I mean, it's been a year and 4 months, and I think it's a pretty impressive product, really. It would be fine as a standalone cavity wax, so if you wanted to just put it inside to protect the inside of a panel that you welded on. Obviously you can't get in there to paint, and it would be fantastic as that. But as I said, underbody, then I go through the usual processes of paints and primers, etc. Haven't for this, because it's just a test to see which coating on its own as standalone is going to protect that steel. If I put it over the top of something that I painted, we wouldn't know whether it was the paint that was protecting it or the Lanolin or whatever else I'm using. Hope that makes sense to you guys. So what's next from Trev's blog? Well, we're going to get back to repair sections and body work, making stuff with your hands, homemade tools. If that's the sort of thing you want to see, that's the sort of thing I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I'm really looking forward to making these videos. Have got to make them yet, I haven't started, so as soon as those videos are made, I'll drop them on, and we'll go from there. I'll see how things go from then on. So until those videos, I shall say bye for now.